Welcome to Insights in Business. I'm Mary Ruth Snyder. I'm the Executive Director for the Campbell River and District Chamber of Commerce. I am very pleased to introduce our guest today, Mr. Jeff West, who is the brand new Executive Director for the Habitat for Humanity for the whole of the North Island. That's not a small job.
Agreed.
Jeff, welcome to Shaw Studios here on Rob Ron Road. And let's talk a little bit about your history first, before we dig into where Habitat is today. So where was it that you were born and raised?
Oh, wow. So
we're going way back.
yeah, way back. I'm a Vancouver person, so born and raised there in quite a long time ago, and grew up when Vancouver was kind of a smallish, friendly town, and you sort of knew a lot of people walking around, kind of like, you know, the Comox Valley or Campbell River. Yeah. Grew up there in... went to school for accounting and finance, and ended up working in finance for the Vancouver Airport Authority, and then moved through there into various operational roles. Over, I think it was 17 years I was with the airport. So got a lot of operational experience, a lot of capital project experience, organizational work, and leadership skills there.
So were you with the Vancouver Airport Authority during all the renovations, or the beginning of those renovations?
Yeah. So we, when we took over from Transport Canada in '92, we built the new parallel runway, the North Runway, the International Terminal Building, and then all of its, you know, subsequent add-ons and bolt-ons for expansion. So there was an awful lot of work. The original runway, I think, was $100 million, and the terminal was $250.
Wow.
And that was really the kickoff of it becoming that major international hub that they are now.
Right.
So lots of fun and excitement there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's back up just a little bit. Which part of Vancouver did you actually spend your childhood in?
Yeah. So I grew up in Kits. I went to Kits High.
Fun.
And played in the Kits High band and all that kind of stuff.
What a great area of Vancouver. I love the big pool they have there.
Oh, the Kits Pool, yeah, and 4th Avenue and Broadway. So I grew up closer to Broadway, and the kids I all went to high school with, or that all went to high school with us, a lot of them were Greek immigrants, and all the businesses up and down Broadway were owned by their families. So lots of nice people that I grew up with there. But then, of course, when you go to move out in Vancouver on your own and buy your first home, it's in East Van, right? You're not going to afford to buy in Kits, not then and not now. So grew up, or spent my young adulthood in East Van in various homes and started a family there, and
Now, after high school, after you left Kits High, what post-secondary did you do?
Yeah, so I went to UBC for a bit, and I went to Langara and did an accounting program there, and then continued on in the CGA program following that. So mostly numbers is where my training is, and that was the work I was doing.
You actually look like an accountant. You've got that look about you.
I'm a recovering accountant. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what was it about your growing up in the Kits area that sort of has informed how your professional life has unfolded?
So it didn't really. The neighborhood didn't really inform my professional life. I spent my teens and early 20s working in the restaurant business and making drinks and observing bar fights. And I eventually, was in my early 20s, and some of your colleagues get to be in their 30s, and you sort of look at them and think, do I want to be in my 30s slinging beer, or do I want to find something different to do? So I managed to weasel my way into the bookkeeping part of the restaurant and learn the accounting side. As a test for myself to see if I liked it, and when I did find I liked it, that's when I went back to school to study.
Awesome.
So it was, I came from a pretty middle class neighborhood. There wasn't any struggle for housing or anything like that. But you still have to make your way in Vancouver, and you can't, you could do it in the restaurant business, and lots of people do really well.
Yep.
But for me, it wasn't the longer term plan, and I wanted to find a more of a reliable career. So that's why I got into accounting and finance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, after you graduated from the school, did you get hired at the airport authority fairly quickly after that?
So I was hired as a co-op accounting student at
Look
the
at that.
airport.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Great.
then subsequent to completing the studies, they hired me on permanently as a credit and collections officer. So working in the accounts receivable department and calling people up who hadn't paid their landing fees and trying to get that money in. So had lots of fun. Saw a lot of airlines, particularly some of the Quebec charter airlines, come and go. And I was on the stairs at the aircraft door on a lot of occasions, looking for my check for landing fees before we would let them disembark the aircraft.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so pretty interesting.
Okay. So when you were immersed into the new builds, what was that not daunting, facing a $100 million budget and a 200, like, when you're looking at those numbers, did you ever sit there and go, how on earth did I ever land here with this amount of money at my, like?
So to be clear, I wasn't accountable for the entire capital project, but I was part of the team delivering it.
Yeah.
And I remember really clearly our vice president of construction at one point, Bob, he was giving a talk in front of the whole team, and he said, well, it's $1 million for this, and it's $1 million for that, and it's $1 million for that, and you know, pretty soon you're talking some real money. So the scale of it was enormous and hard to understand, and that was 1992 when we were kicking that off.
So big numbers for back then.
And it was also the time when the airports, when Transport Canada was privatizing the airport. So we were the first one to privatize under the federal program. So the fact that we were out doing debt financing, raising all this money for this capital project that nobody else had done before was pretty challenging.
So Vancouver Airport was the first airport in Canada that privatized?
That's correct.
Even before, is Toronto private? Or?
Yeah, it went private after Vancouver.
But Vancouver was the first. Oh, that's interesting.
And also the first to implement the wildly popular airport improvement fee. So
I remember that
right?
fee. That was not so popular.
Yeah. So, and that was a big part of paying the debt back and paying those bonds back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so before you left the airport, or when you left the airport, where was that project at that point when you left, like all of those projects?
Oh, well, the runway and international terminal building had been fully completed and in operation since '96, I think it was.
Okay.
And I left in 2007. So we were well past that, and we had done multiple expansions between '96 and '07 when I left.
And so are they, so they were through all the repayment of all of those bills for the most part?
You know what? I can't remember the exact details
Okay.
of that debt financing. I think some of it was 30-year stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So in being involved in a team managing those massive capital projects, so where did you go after the airport?
So after the airport, I went to the 2010 Winter Olympics. So in 2007, I went. They were looking for a general manager who could operate all the Olympic services at the airport, because they had had a suboptimal performance at the previous Winter Olympics. So they decided to make the airport a venue in and itself. So I began in 2007 working for the Olympics.
Okay. What was your favorite moment in that Olympics?
Okay, so when people come to the Olympic Games, to the host city, they come in over a period of weeks, and they bring all their equipment, and they start training, and they get their accommodations organized, and it's a gradual arrival. The day after the Olympics complete, everybody leaves en masse. So it's a huge operational challenge to get. I think we had 60,000 people leaving the day after the Olympics, so March 1st, 2010. And the whole planning effort and all the work that we did up in planning the games and the airport operation was focused on the arrivals and getting the athletes the best experience they could. But ultimately, the biggest challenge was that departure day on March 1st.
Okay.
The airport actually, partnering with us, and they became an official sponsor. They built a whole departure facility that was dedicated to that departure operation.
Oh, okay.
Because everybody wanted it to go smoothly, and no bobsled left behind, that type of attitude. So, so the departure day went off. I mean, it was a heck of a day. It was a long day, but it went off as planned, and we delivered the services that we promised, and the athletes were happy, the airlines were happy, and it worked. So that was a really proud day in my career. I remember that, and I'll always remember that, March 1st, 2010.
Now, in watching the Olympics, do you have a favorite memory of anything that occurred during that Olympics?
So just like any red-blooded Canadian, the gold medal hockey game is going to be the one. So we were watching that game, I don't know if it was the 28th or the 27th of February, at the venue at the airport.
Wow.
And I think it was overtime, and maybe it was double overtime, I can't remember. Anyway, the tensions were running high, and I finally couldn't watch it anymore, so I got into the truck, the Olympic truck, and went for a drive around the venue to the airport to make sure everything was okay, and listened to it on the radio and listened to the Sidney Crosby's goal.
Yeah.
But I mean, everybody talks about that as a memory not only of the job and the work, but of their Olympic experience as a Canadian and a Vancouverite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I was like you. I couldn't stand it. So I actually went and had a bath. I just couldn't take it. And then I said, don't tell me. I'm going to come out and I'll discover, like I was watching with my family, and it's like, I just can't. I could not take. I grew up in Southern Ontario as a hockey rugrat in the arena. My dad played, and I couldn't take it. So I totally understand. It got to be too much. But man, watching him after get the goal and his it couldn't have been more perfect. A Canadian boy scoring for Canada in double, it was brilliant. So, okay. So after you worked on the Olympics, where did you transition to after that?
So everyone who works on the Olympic Games, a lot of them are called games gypsies. They go from games to games to games.
Okay.
My decision was not to follow to the London Games following. And in fact, London wasn't really looking for expats to come and work on their games. So my decision was to find local work following the games. Hopefully my resume was suitable with that experience added to it. So ended up, one of the things was at the end of the games, typically everybody gets a big bonus. That's part of the compensation is a big bonus. As you'll recall, there wasn't any snow in 2010 for the games.
Right.
So a huge cost that the organizing committee had to bear was to fly in and truck in snow from Fraser Valley up to the venues. So the cost of doing that, and in addition, the economic meltdown in 2008 really wiped out anyone's chance of getting a bonus. So you don't have that 6 months window where you can kind of rest and make a decision. So we had to go ahead as a family and find the next job. So I landed with BC Ferries on Vancouver Island, based out of Comox, looking after the northern operations of all the terminal operations.
Oh, okay.
So all up and down the coast, including up to Haida Gwaii, Prince Rupert, and all the mid-coast as well. So that's kind of where I landed after the Olympics in 2010.
Well, yeah, from logistics of doing the airport into the logistics of the BC Ferries, that would totally be transferable.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So did you, of all of those 3 jobs that you did, do you have a favorite?
Well, I think the Olympics have the benefit of being a 3-year term when there's an end goal and a very clear a clear target of what you're trying to accomplish.
Right.
So I think it's easy for it to be very satisfying, because you can say I began in 2007, we got it to 2010, did all the things that we were supposed to do, and moved on. So it felt very satisfying that way. BC Ferries was great. We did a lot of amazing things up and down the coast, but those short-term experiences, and I think that's why it's so attractive for people working on the Olympics, because you have the planning, the build-up, the delivery, and then move on to your next opportunity. So that felt really special in that way, and a real sense of accomplishment.
Yeah. Now, after BC, how long were you with BC Ferries?
So 11 years of BC Ferries.
Oh, wow.
And retired in 2021 in the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
a very bad man who works for Habitat for Humanity mentioned to me that there was an opening. And I said, thanks, I've made my decision, I'll be retired and I'll be fishing. The first person they recruited for the position ended up not taking it. I wasn't chosen. I did apply on the first time, I wasn't chosen. And then, so they reposted it the second time. I said, well, if you didn't want me the first time, I'm not coming the second time either. And this person was very persuasive and let me know what good and valuable work Habitat was doing.
Yep.
Convinced me to apply again, and I was hired. It was actually a year ago December, so December 2021 is when I took the position. Yeah.
You sure joined at a very challenging time in the housing situation across Canada. So let's just talk very, very briefly about the history of Habitat. How many years has Habitat been in place?
So Habitat Canada started, I think 1985 was the first house that was built. I believe the formal Habitat name came a year or two later, but 1985 in Manitoba was where Habitat Canada started building houses.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long have they been on Vancouver Island?
So Vancouver Island North, our affiliate started in 2004 and has been building houses since then.
Okay. So fast forward to 2021, and we were already in the throes of a horrendous housing situation across Canada, and Vancouver Island being one of the worst. And you walked into that with your eyes wide open. What were you thinking?
Well, you know what I was thinking is that there's an amazing team of people there with a lot of experience, and the previous executive director, Pat McKenna, set the organization up really well.
Yep.
And there was money in the bank, even after the pandemic. There was money in the bank, and there was a plan to build 12 homes on Piercy Avenue in Courtenay.
Okay.
So really, all the work was done for me. I'm kidding, but there was at least a plan, and there was really competent people who knew how to deliver the plan.
Okay.
So my job was to come in and execute on that plan.
Right. So where do things stand today with the various plans that you walked into?
So since the worst scenario possible that you described in 2021 and housing crisis, it's gotten worse because the cost of building has gone through the roof, the cost of the commodities and materials has gone up, interest rates have gone up, so our cost to build is commensurately more expensive. Interest rates have gone up for homeowners to buy the home, so attracting a homeowner, a family that can afford the home has become more difficult. Okay. But we kicked off the project in July. We got our permits in, I think, May, and we kicked off the project in July.
And this is the project down in Courtenay?
Yes, at 1375 Piercy in Courtenay. So we've got 2 buildings up. We've got roofs on them, siding and windows are going in. The 3rd building foundation is in and ready for framing. Okay. And we are absolutely on track to deliver by December 2023, 12 homes at that site.
And are they townhouses that are side by side?
Yeah, there's 3 buildings of 4 townhomes each. So it's 3 separate buildings.
The one that you guys did here in Campbell River down on Hilchey is beautiful.
Right.
It is absolutely stunning and totally suited to the West Coast. Really beautiful job. I don't know who designed it, but it's stunning. Yeah,
so we're very proud of the buildings we build. We make no apologies for having them. Affordable housing kind of has a bit of a reputation about it. These are decent, respectable family homes that people would be proud to live in, and they are proud to live in. So thank you for the feedback, and that's the model. It's these are. The pride of home ownership needs to really be attainable for the families that are buying the homes, and that is our model. Yeah.
Now, is Habitat focused on building houses for young families, or are you going to start adding in like patio homes for seniors to retire into? Because seniors are really struggling because they're on a fixed retirement fund. And they are struggling, and some of them are actually losing their housing, and they literally have nowhere to go. Yeah. So are you able to add in that model?
So that's a heartbreaking phone call that we get in the office when a senior will call us and say, you know, can you help? So our mandate and our rules from Habitat Canada are that we serve working families with dependent children under 18 years old.
Okay.
So the seniors focus is not ours, and we're not able to serve in that market.
Okay.
And we're a small part of the whole housing of the whole solution to housing problems in BC and on the island.
Right.
And that's not a focus area for us.
Okay.
So yeah, I totally hear you. It's a growing need for sure. And
it's not just here. Like, that's a growing need right across the country.
Yep.
So the Hilchi project is done now, right?
477 Hilchi is complete with 11 units. Yep.
And is there a new project that's coming online in Campbell River, and where is that going to be?
Yep. So we have land right next door at 461 Hilchi, and we have a preliminary design of 20 units in there. So again,
awesome.
Detached townhomes. Right?
Now the one that you've got done, it looks like it's 3 stories.
They're 2 stories with a crawl.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right. That's what, because they're very tall and slender.
Yep.
Okay. And will the new ones be a similar style?
Yeah, that's so, you know, it's all subject to final design. The preliminary design is very similar. Okay. But with the change in climate and in housing climate, that is, it's you know, it's incumbent on us to do the best value for the land. So we'll always be looking at density, and
right.
whether 20 units is the right number there or 30 units is the right number. We're not sure yet on the final number, and that's okay because we have some time to finalize the design.
Okay.
And that design is a couple years old when the environment was a little bit different in terms of financing and best use of land. So frankly, I'd like to see it be more than 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Now, the project that's currently going in Courtenay, so you're are you looking for volunteers to come out and help with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So on the job site, not as much. What we've done, so Habitat used to be a really homey sort of operation where a bunch of friends would get together and start framing walls. Now that we are, and we used to build 1 or 2 homes a year.
Right.
So now we're building 12 in a year. Yeah. So we need to be a little more commercial in the way that we approach the projects. And so volunteer on a job site are great, and we still have them on the job site. Typically right now it's the families that are there. How to say this nicely? If you put me on a job site to frame walls, you'd probably have to reframe the wall.
Okay.
So what we find is it's more economical to have volunteers do other jobs and hire a professional framer to do the framing or whatever element it is. So there's less and less need for volunteers on the job site, but there's always a need for volunteers in our restores and to do other community work and volunteer at events or do administrative work or volunteer on committees.
Okay.
Our board of directors is entirely volunteers, and we're always recruiting high-quality board directors. So certainly lots of volunteer opportunities, but not the typical hammer in the tool belt kind of scenario.
Now, is all of that information for contact available on the website?
Yeah.
Regardless of where you are in the North Island?
Correct.
Okay.
HabitatNorthIsland.com has all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you say North Island, are you doing stuff up in like Port McNeill, Port Hardy, Port Alice?
So our territory is from Bowser to top of the island to Port Hardy.
Okay.
The only projects that this affiliate has done have been in the Comox Valley and in Campbell River.
Okay.
So that's kind of our longer term plan, is how can we have an impact on the rest of the island, because the need is not just in the Comox Valley and Campbell River.
Right. Yeah, in talking to somebody recently who's up in Port McNeill and somebody else who's in Port Hardy, they are having the exact same issues that everybody else is having. Like, there is this housing shortage because, as you may know, like the government has brought in, I don't know, about 200,000 refugees and immigrants over the last year, and the goal for this year is, I think, 400,000 immigrants, not refugees. Refugees are a whole other add-on. And then another 500,000 next year. And I'm like, it's wonderful because we need to bolster our workforce because everybody is short-staffed. But where are they going to put everybody? So what? So what are you going to do?
Yeah. So you know what? Any family. So the families that qualify for affordable home ownership with Habitat are families with dependent children, working within a certain family income range.
Yep.
Willing to partner with Habitat and volunteer 500 hours to work on their home or volunteer with Habitat, and willing to make affordable mortgage payments. So whether they're a local family from Campbell River or an immigrant family who's just been in the area for a year, we will gladly talk to any of them. We don't sort of focus on immigrant families or non-immigrant families.
Right.
So it's wide open for whoever meets those qualifications.
Okay. So once you have completed the project in Courtney on Piercy Avenue, and once you move past the next phase on Hilchey, do you have your eyes set on what's next in each of those communities?
Sure. Well, let me back you up a little bit. To get to the next phase of Hilchey, we've got a challenge on our hands.
Okay.
So the war chest has been depleted to build 1375 Piercy.
Right.
Typically, CMHC and BC Housing funding are available to us, but those dollars are becoming more and more scarce.
Okay.
So we have a big fundraising effort to conduct in order to get 461 Hilchey off the ground or in the ground. So our focus over 2023 is going to be that fundraising effort and getting enough reserve in the bank to be able to kick off that project.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and all of those fundraising activities can be found on the website or on your social media. And do you have anything unfolding right now? Is there 50-50 or?
We've got the in-store 50-50 always ongoing. We've got an online 50-50 that we're going to be doing. We did 12 of them last year. We're going to do, I think, 3 or 4 this year to try and make the pot bigger for people.
Great.
You know, the one of the biggest sources of revenue for us is the restore. The restores are they're flirting with $2 million in revenue a year between the two of them. We'd like to get them there. It is awesome.
And that's good for the environment because you're reusing things and they're not going to the landfills.
Yeah, totally. So that's a great way for people to support us is buy everything you need from the restore. So just come in and get everything. We'd love that. We're getting higher and higher quality product in. We're getting more furniture in. The donations from the community are increasing again. So that's a really nice way that people can support us. But the other way is that website we talked about, habitatnorthisland.com. There's a big button that says Donate Now. And that's our favorite button. And it, what really helps us is those monthly donations where people will sign up and it's kind of like your Netflix subscription. You sign up once and say monthly and you forget about it. And that's what we're hoping people do. And it's an easy way to give and it makes a big difference and you get your tax receipt at the end of the year.
Awesome.
So they can do that. People can make planned giving decisions around Habitat as well. And if you're trying to figure out where to direct money in your will, it's a real gift for us, and once in a while when we get those bequests, it makes a huge difference, and it made a big difference on, I think it was the Lake Trail project in Courtney. So that's another nice way people can help us.
Yeah. Jeff West, the Executive Director for Habitat for Humanity for the North Island, thank you so much for coming in today and sharing with us your history and your very fascinating journey. So thank you so much for joining us for Insights in Business. I'm Mary Ruth Snyder, Executive Director for the Campbell River and District Chamber of Commerce. Please join us again.